Hello, everyone, and welcome to Power Hour. I'm Laura Rogers, and today's topic is going to be calendars in Microsoft 365, all the different types of calendars, comparisons of what you can do in them, things like Microsoft 365 calendars, SharePoint calendars, shared calendars, and we're going to demo them and compare and contrast them. And let's get started with the stinger. All right, so again, I'm Laura Rogers, and this is a show I do Wednesdays at 11 Central. Joelle's usually here with me. She is in the chat today. If you have never joined before, there is a link. If you'd like to join in the chat in Teams, there's a link to request to join. So that's the fun thing, is that it's live and you never know what's going to happen. And we like to have a lively conversation in Teams. So that's where we are chatting. And I usually just kind of wing it and do just go through demos. But this one I felt like needed to entail an actual PowerPoint. So I have a PowerPoint, just a slide that I'll show you that, and we might actually change and add things to this slide as we go, but it's a good kind of idea of comparison of what the structure is of what we're going through today with comparing these different types of calendars in Microsoft 365, because they are very different. They're all a lot of different nuances between them and just weird things here and there. So it's probably too much for just one comparison chart to handle, but I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started with that. Okay, so here is my slide. Okay, so what we have here is Microsoft 365 groups, Outlook shared calendars, SharePoint events versus SharePoint list calendar. So we're going to talk about what these are and kind of what you can do with them. So first of all, a Microsoft 365 group exists. That's when you first create a team in Microsoft 365. It has a Microsoft 365 group. When you create a SharePoint team site, that also has one of these groups, and it has a calendar as part of it. And it also has an email address. For an Outlook shared calendar, that is something that an admin creates from the Exchange side, from the main admin console in Microsoft 365. And that's something that can be used as just a shared mailbox, really. It's a shared mailbox, and it has a shared calendar in it, and it has things that you can do with that. And also you have other similar concepts in Exchange, like resources and equipment, like rooms and equipment as resources. If you have a company that has a lot of conference rooms and you want people to be able to book things and book conference rooms and book equipment like projectors and things. Do people still have projectors? I don't know. So that's what you can use those for. And then SharePoint events that's that old school SharePoint calendar. And that's what gets created on a site when you use the events web part. And then it's not the same thing as a SharePoint list, viewing it as a calendar. And we do have a whole other Power Hour we did about SharePoint list calendars, viewing it as a calendar, even different color coding and overlays with a calendar. And we also have something I'll touch on is the concept of Microsoft bookings. And we also have a whole other Power Hour about Microsoft bookings as well. So when I mention these things, just kind of FYI, those are things that we've done deep dives into. So the first thing that I've built some of these, so I want to show you the end result. And then we'll kind of go through what it looks like to create them, what it looks like to work with them, and talk about pros and cons as we go. So hello, everyone in the chat. Yeah, cool. I can see you all in there, and you can, I tried to kind of share this site that I'm testing things with you all. I actually have, for those of you all who are in the chat, I have a Power Hour SharePoint site that I'll demo some of this on as well. So you potentially could go in there and look at that if you'd like. Okay, so I'll close my slide. We might go back to this slide to add things to it potentially. It's going to be interesting. All right, so here we have, let me pull up my, okay. I'm going to talk about the two different concepts in SharePoint first. I'm going to talk about the SharePoint events and then the SharePoint, just the calendar, the list as a calendar concept, because those are, unfortunately, there's two different things. So when I'll go ahead, see, I'm on this human resources site and I've got this web part called events. And this is the one on the right over here. I've got these. So when you add the events web part to your page, you can have these lovely events. You can see them. They can have an image. They can tell you when the meeting is. And people can click on an event just on this pretty SharePoint page. And they can even say, oh, I want to go to this event. And they can just click add to my calendar, which really just gives you a little ICS file that then you can just go add it to your personal calendar. It's going to open up Outlook and just open up your own calendar and then just give you the ability to click save so that you can manually add that thing to your calendar. So it pops up this. And then you could just click save and close, and be sure to give yourself a reminder because it's not going to have one. So that's what the user interface looks like when you use the events web part. I'll go look at one of these. So it gives you the ability to have a nice pretty image you can put at the top of it. You can paste like a meeting link, like a Teams link if you want to. Give it a category. Adding people down here doesn't seem to do anything. Like it doesn't seem to send them an invite or anything like that. So let me go ahead and go back. Okay, so that's the events web part. When you add the events web part to a page for the first time, I'll go ahead and do that. I'll go to my Power Hour group page. So first of all, before I'm going to show you what it does, let's go see. Okay, so this is all of our contents in this Power Hour site. Notice that there is no calendar. There's nothing called events in here. So when I go to just any page and I go edit the page and I decide to add the events web part, let me delete this thing. Events right here. As soon as I add events for the first time, our events, publish it, yes. Then it actually creates a new list. So the next time you go to site contents, you've got this events list. See, it just created it. And that is an old school classic SharePoint calendar, which is really weird. I know. If you click on it, look at that. That's an old, ugly SharePoint calendar. But that is what works with this web part. So you can go click create an event, testing events web part. And you can go give it a nice pretty image and just fill this out. So it's very basic. It doesn't have much functionality in it. It just is very pretty and will show on the home page and will show in a calendar on your site. But unfortunately, and this type of calendar, you used to be able to synchronize these with Outlook back in, the old on-premises SharePoint. You can't even do that anymore. So we actually had a whole other Power Hour. We talked about how to take one of these and convert it and give it a modern look and make it look nicer just by using one of these old ones. The other concept we have in SharePoint is just creating a SharePoint list and making it look like a calendar. So you can just go create any list like this. I'll just say, I wonder if I should just use one of these. No, I'm not going to use a template. I'm not going to get it all confused. I'll just say test list as calendar. That's the name of my list. And create that. And so my list is just a plain old blank list. So what you do need to be able to use a list as a calendar is you need two different date fields. Every SharePoint list is already going to have two different date fields. It's going to have when it was created and when the thing was modified. I'm just going to go add a couple more just for fun. I'm going to say start and I'll go ahead and include time and end. They're pretty simple. And you could have, you know, just like with any other list, you can create all the columns that you need for this. But the trick with the calendar concept is that you can, I'll go ahead and just like add something to it real quick. Test events. It's going to be tomorrow at 12 a.m. It's going to end tomorrow at there. All right, so that's my test event. Now, to make it look like a calendar, I can say create new view, make it a calendar view. Just call it calendar view. And my start date is going to be start and my end date is going to be end. Now you're probably going to want those to be required fields, so people have to fill in those dates. And then I want to see the title of my item in the calendar view. And again, I have a whole other hour that I've recorded about this in another power hour. So there's my lovely calendar and my test event on it. So when I added our events, the actual event web part, this is what it looks like. But if I go here and add a list web part, and I'll just use my test list as calendar, and then change it to use, let me go to the settings. Instead of all items, make it be calendar view. And so now that's how you can, I'll just republish that. That's how you can make your whole calendar show on the home page with a modern calendar. Let's see. All right. Yeah. So anybody, any questions? I can't tell. Let me see. I don't think so. Okay, cool. So that's the two different SharePoint concepts. So that was this SharePoint events. You can get to it in SharePoint. You can't get to the SharePoint events list in Teams, especially because it's a classic list. It's not going to be available to add as a tab or anything in Teams. It doesn't send meeting invites. It's not really accessible in Outlook. Well, the only way that it's accessible in Outlook is you saw what I did. I went and looked at the event and clicked add to my calendar. So then that's why, but people would have to manually do that and add it to their calendar. So that's why I put partial there. And then customizable, I put partial. Just like with any SharePoint list, you can add columns to it. It has certain columns in there that are part of its functionality that would, you don't want to break the whole thing by deleting all those default columns, but you can add your own columns if you want to. I don't think they're going to necessarily show on that default, like pretty little web form though. And then you have the SharePoint list calendar we just demoed, and that is got, it is of course accessible in SharePoint. It is accessible in Teams because you can go add it as a tab in Teams, and I'll go do that next. It doesn't send meeting invites. It's not accessible in Outlook, but it is customizable. You saw it's completely customizable the way I could add as many columns as I wanted to it. And you can even color code it and make it look really nice and have different, maybe you could create a column called category and you can make different categories look like different colors. So the way you add this in Teams is, let me go to Teams. Oh, I've got Teams pulled up already with the chat here, the actual Teams. Okay. So here's today's power hour that in our chat. I could go to this and go to lists. That's Microsoft Lists app. So I've added the app, and then once I add it, then I just say, I already created this list. So I can just say existing list, and I'll put my test list as calendar. And then now it shows it here, and here's my other view, the calendar view right here. So I could go make the calendar view be my default view in SharePoint too, to make sure that's the first thing that you see when you go to it. But that is how I could add that to a tab in Teams. All right, any questions about, let's see. Let me get back, where was I? Okay. Okay, here's the chat. Oh yeah, so that's cool, Lisa. She has a custom SharePoint list calendar with custom forms and a Power App that sends emails. Yeah, that is very custom. So yeah, any SharePoint list, just like Lisa said, you can customize it with Power App. You can create a standalone Power App, either one of those, and you can create your own custom form using just a Power App form, and then you can completely customize it by having your own emails, everything from scratch. So that is a great idea, Lisa. If you see all these concepts that we're talking about today and you think that they're a mess and you want to just do your own thing and create your own concept, then yes, you could just scratch all this and just create something from scratch like Lisa did. That's a great idea. That's usually what I do because this is just too much of a mess. Okay, so the next thing that we have is a Microsoft 365 group. And this Power Hour is a Microsoft 365 group. It already, as soon as you create a team, it already is a group. And then the group is already going to have a calendar. So what you can do is you can't necessarily see the calendar in here when you're in the group by default. You can go to the calendar, and it's weird because I can see the meetings that are in the group calendar, but it doesn't necessarily have a way to toggle between different group calendars on this screen. So what I can do though is there is a calendar, is something called a channel calendar. And the channel calendar is like a little app that you can add into Teams as a tab. And then I'll just call it channel calendar. And then your channel calendar is going to show you the meetings that exist in your, like in this Power Hour group calendar. So like I'll go ahead and add a new event, test in Power Hour group. That way I'll know exactly which calendar this is coming from when I see where it's going to show up. And then I'll just say it shows it's in the Power Hour team. That's where I'm creating it. Test here. Okay. So it's going to be from 11:30 to 12. I'll just say it's going to be from 1 to 2. And then I'll just, let's see. It doesn't let you invite external users on this screen. So now if I go, it created it. You just have to like go to the next week and then go back before you see it. So there's my calendar event in the Microsoft 365 calendar. So now that one is going to show in Teams on this channel calendar. That is the calendar associated with this team, with this Microsoft 365 group. And there is a web part. So another web part. I'll go ahead and edit this Power Hour homepage and get rid of quick links, get rid of documents, and add another web part. And this is called group calendar. So it's another web part, it's a third way of showing your calendar on your homepage in SharePoint. I know, right? Oh. So I've got this, this is the thing that I just created. So I'll go ahead and republish this. And so this is my group, Microsoft 365 group event in a calendar. And this is the web part that will show the events in that calendar. So I can, let me see if I can open that. Yeah, so when I open it, that's what it looks like. And I can add it to my own personal calendar if I want to. And then I can join it because I made it a Teams meeting. So that would mean you would be like actually joining a live Teams meeting to clicking the join button. And then this will just synchronize it, just kind of refreshes it basically. So you can see upcoming and past. All right, very confusing so far. Let's see. Okay, nope, nothing new in there. Let me see. Anything else? No. Okay, cool. I kind of got both of them open and I'm just kind of flipping back and forth, but that's some great conversation going on. Okay, so then another thing you can do is in Teams, this is really interesting. Let me go to Teams. Now I can't do this with a group calendar but I can do this if I just go to Teams and click the calendar, is I can create a meeting that lets people register. So this isn't even necessarily a different type of calendar. This is just something extra that you can do when you're in Teams, in the Teams interface in your calendar. So I can go, I'll just say registration event test. And then I can say that's going to be tomorrow, 11:30 to 12. Don't put a channel here. So if you want to use this functionality I'm about to show you, don't put a channel. And then test to register. And then this is that cool setting we talked about a couple of weeks ago when we talked about tasks, synchronizing with Loop and synchronizing with events and stuff. So I click this little thing with the agenda that people can add to. Now here we go. This is the thing that I wanted to show you that's really fun. Registration options. So I can require people to register for this event. So when I require people to register, it creates the, probably because I didn't save it and give it a title yet. Let me go ahead and save it. It's got this weird looking link because I checked the box. I think it's a little buggy because I checked the box before I saved it. Yeah. Oops. Registration options. So I did create this registration concept. So it's got a little button here for me to customize the registration form. So this is something that you can do. If you want people to have to register for an event, you don't have to build a custom Power App. You don't have to build a custom interface or anything. You just create an event in Teams and just say, I want people to have to register for this. So it creates this little form for you. You can go edit this form, give it an image. I'll just say, give it that image. And then give it a title. Let's see, cool, fun registration. And then it's got its date and time already. And I can say maximum number of people that can register. And this is what the form is going to look like. I can manually add who I want the speakers to be. They don't even have to be people in my organization. I'm just typing free form. Yeah. I've got George Jetson speaking at my event. And then I can copy my registration link. So now I have that copied to my clipboard. And then I can go and share it with people. So let me close this. And that is a webinar now. Let me see, where did that go? Teams. I'm creating all kinds of stuff in here, aren't I? Let's see if you get that. There we go. Oh, cool. You got a meeting invitation for that? That's awesome. So yeah, the test in Power Hour group is that I created is that sends an invitation to people. So whoever's in this Power Hour group, you all got an email about that event. That's the fun of testing and doing things live. Okay, so that was SharePoint, displaying things on SharePoint, a Microsoft 365 group and how it can display in SharePoint and in Teams. And then just another little tidbit about a way that you can create events in Teams. And then we've got, let me go back to the slides. Then we've got a Outlook shared calendar, and that is the oldest kind. That is the old school way that's been around, you know, ever since Exchange existed pretty much, of having a shared calendar in a shared mailbox. The cool thing about shared mailboxes is that you can, well, one of the cool things is that when you're creating a flow, you can use the send from a shared mailbox action or a trigger of things arriving in a shared mailbox to trigger your flows. And so sometimes that's really useful to be able to have that instead of things coming from you personally from a flow. Okay, so with a shared mailbox, I have to be an admin. So I go to the admin center here. And this is the Microsoft 365 main admin center. And I go to shared mailboxes here. And this is where I can add a shared mailbox, and I just give it a name and an email address. So for example, this legal team is a shared mailbox that I created. And then it has where you can add members to it, and then members are going to be able to see the shared mailbox. Now, anybody's going to be able, if you have this showing in your global address list, the GAL, then anybody can send an email to that shared mailbox, but the people that you add as members can see it. So when you're sending invitations, you could technically add the name of a shared mailbox to invite to a meeting, and then that would put that event in the shared mailbox. Another kind of type of shared mailbox is going to be resources. So you have rooms and equipment, and those are going to let you, when you're creating Outlook events, those are going to let you add things like conference rooms. Like if I want to have my meeting in a conference room, that probably some of you who work for bigger companies, you probably have that in your organization where you can have invite a certain conference room to your meeting and then be able to have that conference room booked. And so these are other sort of types of calendars that you have from an admin perspective that you can create. So with a shared calendar, if I want to see the shared calendar in my own mailbox, so I've already added the legal one. Let me see if I've got this other one is called accounting. Let me see if I can add that. So to add a shared mailbox to your own calendar, you can right click on this little folders thing and choose add shared folder or mailbox. And then you can do that in Outlook on the web or the client as well, I believe. And then I've got, now this human resources thing, this is actually a Microsoft 365 group. Then IT is a email enabled security group. So those are not shared. The one I'm looking for is accounting. So let me go back. Oops. So it's called accounting at IB Mentor Power Hour, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Add that. Now, I don't know why this one doesn't show as it like prompts it. It doesn't prompt it to show along with all the other ones. Oh, there it is. I had to start typing a lot more for that one to show up. Okay, so then you have another type of shared mailbox. And this is one where you can have a whole group of people that can have access to this and be able to have just one big team calendar. And it's more, if you work in Outlook all day and you are used to the Outlook interface and that's what you want to see, then, that's the one that you're going to want to use. Now, when I go to calendars, now it's showing me, I'm actually showing someone else's counts, a person, showing their calendar, and they've gotten invited to some of these little test events that I've been creating. But when you've got these events that you're seeing in your calendar, once you've added shared calendars to your account in Outlook, then you're going to see like this is from a human resources shared calendar, like this Power Hour one. And this one is, let me dismiss that. That's that registration event that I was testing. And then this one is a human resources invited me to that. So I've got, and when you've got a event that exists in that shared calendars mailbox, it's going to show here and it's going to show kind of where it's coming from. So let's see, any questions so far? I've got all these places that I could need to look for questions. Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, it's two different chats. Sorry, it's so confusing. Yeah, I think most people are in the new one, so from what I can tell. Oh no, I had to refresh it. They're all, okay, so let me see. Now I'm seeing other questions that I wasn't seeing. I think Joelle has answered them all. Anything else? Let's see. Okay, so let me recap. And And you all let me know if you have questions about any other specific concepts that things that you're trying to do in calendars that maybe needs to potentially be a new row in here. So as we have things that are accessible, whether or not they're accessible in SharePoint, whether or not they're accessible in Teams. And then we have whether it sends meeting invites to, obviously you all got some meeting invites from things that I was creating. And some of them don't send meeting invites. And then accessible in Outlook, that's really important to a lot of people. Some of these, the one where I put it's partially accessible in Outlook, means that you have to manually click to add an event to your own personal calendar. And then customizable, really the SharePoint list calendar, the one that you saw me go create a blank list and start from scratch and just create those date columns. That is completely customizable, and you can have whatever columns you want. And then the SharePoint events is just partially customizable because it does have a lot of built-in fields that it needs to be able to work, in conjunction with that web part that it displays on. But you can technically add your own columns in that old school SharePoint calendar list. It's really awkward. Like, I like the way the SharePoint events shows in the web part on the home page, and it looks very lovely and it shows upcoming events. But other than that, it doesn't seem to have like a lot of that core functionality. Like, it's not going to pop up and remind you. It is lovely though. So what do you all think? Let me see. Will this change with the new Outlook desktop? Oh, Lisa says which calendar? I'm not sure about the new Outlook desktop. Actually, the new Outlook desktop has really I started using it, but then it started annoying me because it wasn't popping up and giving me reminders about anything. Like, I rely on those pop-ups telling me there's a meeting coming up, telling me to go feed the dogs or whatever. I rely on those. So the new Outlook didn't have them, which I thought was very odd. Which calendars allow recurring events? That's a great question, Lisa. Let's go look at that. Okay, so let's go through the list. We've got Microsoft 365 Group was the first one that we talked about. So that is this channel calendar. And when I create a new event in the channel calendar, that's probably going to be the one that's the one that's going to send all of you an email. So I'm not going to actually create it. I don't want to send another email. But this one does let you do an all-day meeting. Okay, so that's the answer to that one. And it does let you have a repeating. It does have both of those options, so that's good to know. And then the next one is going to be the Outlook shared calendar, and that's definitely going to have it because that one is going to be the that's going to just have all the functionality of a regular Outlook calendar. So the shared calendar is these calendars. Mail event. I'm gonna mention that bookable time thing to you as well. All right. So this one does have all day. It does have repeating. So that's just the regular calendar interface. And then a couple of other ones. So SharePoint events, Lisa, that is going to be this one over here. That does have an all day checkbox. It doesn't have recurring. So that's the key to the one that's that it's missing, that the events web part with the one that has the old school calendar in it, that's the one that does not have recurring, but it does have all day. So I'll cancel that. Yes, and then the next one is going to be that SharePoint list calendar, and that is definitely not going to have it because let me go down to my the one that I created. Oh, that's my human resources site. Let me go to my Power Hour site. Sorry. Test list is a calendar, and then this is just a SharePoint list, so it doesn't have any kind of all day or repeating functionality built in, and it would be horribly painful to try and build that from scratch. I've tried to delve into that before. It's no fun. Another type of shared calendar that you have it's not really a different calendar, but it's another concept that exists in your calendar, is the concept of bookable time. You see this right here? This is a fairly new concept, bookable time. So when I choose bookable time, that is using Microsoft Bookings. Isn't that cool? So it lets you just say Laura's office hours or whatever, and then it lets you set different availabilities like on different days, and that would just, then from then on, you could just, this could just be recurring, and that is your bookable time that then people can book with you. And that's different than having just people in your organization sending you a meeting invite and seeing that you're available or not, because bookable time is a public link that you can send people. So I already did this right before we got started. I created this this little bookable time I did one of these, so I can go to my booking page since I've already created it, and then this is going to show me like all the details. So I've got Laura bookable time here, and this is what's going to show on my booking page when people go to, they want to book a meeting with me. So it's got a 30-minute slot. It's got different slots on different days that I'm available. And then also I noticed that in my mailbox, I'll just go like write an email. Look at that. It's got book time to meet with me. So I can send this to somebody just even outside of my company. That's the key here. And then they can just click, when they get the email, they can just click book time to meet with me, and then that will take them to this public page where they can go pick a day here. Isn't that cool? That's bookings. And again, we did a whole other power hour about that, but that is another thing that exists when you're creating, like related to your calendar. If you want, just the concept of the shared calendar, the concept of a kind of a narrowed down shared calendar, you don't want to just have anybody be able to book time with you at any points. You want to share just these specific time slots, and you want to save yourself some time. So it lets people do it themselves, and they just pick a time and pick a date and they book with you. So that's a big efficiency saver, I feel like, instead of going through that whole process of what time are you available? I'm time available here. Well, so-and-so is available in this time slot, and what day, and what will, all that back and forth that you get when you're scheduling meetings. So using bookings, I think, is going to be, that's a good little option to have when it comes to having a shared calendar. And that just it's just a different front end interface to your own calendar. So it just puts it on your calendar. All right, let's see. I think that just about wraps up our comparison. Let me see. Looking to see if any questions that I missed. Got so many. I've been flipping back and forth between so many different things in this one. Okay. Yeah. That about wraps it up. Cool. So now what I've been trying to convey to you is that when you decide that you want to have a group calendar or a shared calendar, what all the options are and what all these different concepts are. So I've attempted to kind of create this comparison chart, but when in doubt, if you need to have a group calendar for a team of people or have a shared calendar that people can see, I highly recommend trying the different ones, because, and I've done this with a customer before. We tried one type, and then we got people to test it, and then they said, oh, well, it doesn't have this, I want to be able to blah, blah, blah. And then we tried another type. So it's good to get everyone's feedback in the team instead of just kind of implementing a calendar and saying, here's your calendar. It's good to kind of get people's feedback of what they're used to being able to click, what they're used to being able to see, like having a reminder, or not making them have to manually add it to their own calendar. So there are a lot of different gotchas and pros and cons of the different types. So testing them out and seeing whatever your situation is that you would like to have a shared calendar for, I highly recommend testing out these different ones so that you'll see if that fits that specific requirement and need for that purpose. So I'm definitely not going to sit here and say, like, always use this kind of calendar. It's really a matter of now you know what your options are, and now you know that there are a lot of differences. So go forth and calendar, and I hope it goes well. And we're having, let's see, are we having Power Hour next week? If you ever need to find out when the next Power Hour is going to be, go to iwmentor.com and click schedule at the top. And that's going to tell you when our Power Hours are. We do have one next week, September 13th. September 14th is our office hours for our ultimate members at iwmentor.com. And then September 18th through 22nd is our big live online. I'm teaching advanced Power Apps and advanced Power Automate 5 days. It's a very intense class. So check that out on our calendar, and I will see you all next time.